Hey, everybody, welcome to the Lockdown Sessions presented to you from Wrestling Travel by our friends at True Heel Heat Wrestling. They have a great podcast out of New York City. I always tell everybody, if you're going to listen to one new pro wrestling podcast a week, pick True Heel Heat. If you got time for two, check ours out. We're learning. We're not as good as those guys yet, but we're getting there. But today, we are honored to have with us on the road. She is not driving, but Miranda Gordy, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and we just want to reiterate, because I wasn't sure if she was driving as well, folks, but she's a lot smarter and safer than that. Miranda, we started this show around WrestleMania time in April, just to kind of find out what everybody is doing during the pandemic. We're out of the UK, but I'm going to start at the beginning for you before we get to what's been going on in the pandemic. How long have you been in, and obviously the family name, I know that you've been in the business, but how long have you personally, you've been trained, and how long you've been doing professional wrestling?
I started actually training in September of 2018. And I have been actually working since July of last year. So I'm only like a year in matches,
Okay.
so not very long. But yes, obviously I grew up with it, with, my family. My dad wrestled, my brother wrestled, a lot of wrestling in the family. I've always been around it, but I personally, I say a year doing matches and stuff.
And then who broke you in? Who did you start training with?
My main trainer has been Knight Davis out of XCW out of Denton, Texas. He ran XCW for many years. Like he was on TV and stuff, and I just happened to find him by chance. I started managing a friend of mine, and just to kind of get a taste of it. And I was like, okay, I totally want to train now. I really like this. And so he introduced me to Knight, and it just started from there. And I've been really blessed to have a lot of great minds help train me. Right now, I'm training with this guy. His name is Craig Kiesman. We're training up in, he goes by Niles Plunk. So I'm currently training with him in the Kansas City area. I've also had people like Ember Moon took over for Knight at his dojo. And so I got to work with her, and I've also got to work with people like Tom Howard, who has been in the business for a long time, and he's trained a lot of great names as well. So I've had a lot of great people kind of help mold me to what I am now.
And one day when he's not driving, we'll try to get Craig on the lockdown sessions too. So I don't want to leave him out. He has to listen to me ramble on and on. He deserves for us to give him a push as well. So if he's up for it. So I want to talk, I usually go back and go, what influenced people? Like, what was their first memories of wrestling? But growing up in the business with obviously your father and your brother, was it, and I never got a chance to ask anybody, was it just something that the family did when you were growing up, so it didn't seem like a big deal to you? Or did it fascinate you, or were you not really interested, or how does that work?
Well, I mean, I was going to shows before I could even remember. I don't have memories of my first show because I was small. So, but I remember going to shows as a kid, and as a kid, you get really into it, especially when you see your loved one, like your dad, and then Michael. I call him my Uncle Michael. You see them, and you get real into it because you're a kid. And growing up, I wasn't like a real huge fan. It was always there, but it wasn't like a passion like it is now. As far as me getting into it, it kind of just slowly became a passion one day. But like teenage years, it was just kind of like, if I want to go to a show, I will. If not, I'm not worried about it, kind of thing. But like my dad died when I was 11, so before that, I was pretty much into it. It was an Attitude Era, so that was like the best time for wrestling and stuff. So that's kind of how wrestling was, and it's just always been there for me. So
I've been interviewing a lot of people from Texas this week in preparation for the Independent Wrestling Expo, which we're going to talk about with you a little bit. And I always say when I have a wrestler from Texas on, I have to ask them about the Von Erichs. And every time the Von Erichs come up, the Freebirds come up. Have you, with the WWE Network and YouTube and stuff, and I imagine for tape study, you go back and watch some of this classic stuff that maybe you were too young to remember?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mostly study my dad's tapes. Like, that's my favorite thing. Just trying to get everything, like his mannerisms and stuff. So if I'm going to do, a lot of tape study, it will be on him. So I've seen a lot of those matches. And it's also fun to see the difference in how wrestling was then and now. So just to compare, watching tapes just to compare this different styles and what they did. And I think a lot of through the Von Erich stuff, I wasn't even alive yet, so I wouldn't remember. When I was young, like I was born in '89, so when I was young, my dad was in Japan a lot. So that's what I grew up with, was a lot of Japanese wrestling and a lot of Stan Hansen and Dr. Death and Giant Baba and Misawa and stuff. And that's what I remember. And it's a little different. Everyone, automatically just assumes that Freebirds, obviously I was around it. I grew up a natural born Freebird. But at the same time, I remember a lot of the Japanese stuff as well.
And I am stuck as an old man in northern Wisconsin and loved when they came to the AWA in the 80s. And this is before we had cable. Right? So once they were gone, and you had to look in the magazines. But speaking of your dad being in Japan, you have a very young career, but I follow you on Facebook. You recently, well, it might not be very recent, but you went over and toured Japan as well, right?
I did in February, like right as the pandemic was starting. So when I went, actually, everybody already had masks on over there. And, I was like, oh, it's not going to be anything. As soon as I get back, everything goes on lockdown here. So, I went in February, like the 20th, I think, something like that. But I stayed a week and a day. I did 2 shows. I did Tokyo Championship Wrestling, and then I worked for DDT Pro. And I had, like, the greatest experience ever. So it's a different world, and, like, the wrestling world over there, it's great. The fans are great. I can't wait to go back.
Yeah, when we went over for Wrestle Kingdom, the fans, very, very passionate, very respectful.
Yes.
And for you in your young career to be able to, experience the fans over here, the fans over there. We're in the United Kingdom, so we obviously, well, I'm not in the United Kingdom right now, but you obviously have a passport. And is that somewhere that we can hopefully, once that we're out of this crazy mess, we can hopefully get you to wrestle over in the United Kingdom so the fans can see you there?
Oh, absolutely. I'm willing to travel wherever. Like, so anything new that I can see, I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of the wrestling is the travel. I've always loved to travel and like seeing new places. And if you get paid to do it and, entertain people while doing it, that's, I couldn't ask for anything else, anything better.
Yeah, absolutely. And us being wrestling travel, we love that too. How many you're on your way to a show right now? Is that where you guys are driving to?
No, the show is we actually have 2 shows, Texoma Pro in Sherman, Texas, and then we are doing there is a training camp and TV tapings this weekend for SWE Fury, which is on like Fight TV and CW33 and stuff like that.
Do you know if you have fans this weekend? Have they had many shows with fans down there?
It's starting to open up a bit. I don't think they're at full capacity, but they are allowing a crowd in there. So.
Same thing up with Wisconsin. We're doing a lot of safety measures. I went to Warrior Wrestling, covered it in. We were sponsors in Chicago on the 7th, which was awesome. 500 fans, socially distanced at a football stadium. Huge card. Brian Cage, Jeff Cobb. Brian Pillman Jr., a lot of names out there, and it was really cool. I just cannot wait for the fans to be back at wrestling. But speaking of fans and pro wrestling, the main thing I want to talk about here is August 28th and August 29th, the Independent Wrestling Expo in Dallas, Texas. We are proud sponsors of that. You've got two huge matches. Let's talk about the first night. Friday night, you're in is it a three-way dance, a three-way elimination? Do we know yet?
It is a three-way. I believe it's an elimination. And then it's Killa Kate and Erica Torres.
How familiar are you with those two?
Yeah. I actually am wrestling Killa Kate tomorrow at Texoma Pro, and I've wrestled her before at SWE, so I know her pretty well. I also know Erica. I've seen her on the road and stuff. I've never had an actual match with her. So, but I know she does well, so it's going to be a really good match.
That's awesome, and we're looking forward to that. We're also looking forward Saturday night, you are going to step in with former Impact Knockouts champion Jordan Grace. Now, I've seen Jordan wrestle quite a bit. I look at your Twitter, and you're listed as professional facebuster. Talking with Kyle, the promoter of the show, we were both talking how this is going to, on paper, this looks like it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight that the fans are really going to be looking forward to. Have you stepped in the ring with Jordan before? Do you know her?
I have not. I've actually not even met her yet. So I get to meet her this weekend because she will be at SWE. So that's the first time I'll meet her, and then right after meeting her, I get to wrestle her. So no, she's a big deal in Impact and stuff, and so she's someone that I follow and keep up with, just because I figured one day I would get to wrestle her. Her and I are about the same size. We're kind of in, our own little category of women's wrestling. So I think it's going to be good. People have said that this is like a dream match for them. So I'm pumped for that. I'm pumped just to see the fight, to be a part of the fight.
Yeah, and as fans, if you can make it to Dallas this weekend, if you are within driving distance, please, you got to check it out, because it's so much wrestling and a fan experience packed into 2 days. You are going to be able to do meet and greets very safely. You are going to be able to support your wrestlers by buying merch, getting autographs. It's going to be up to each wrestler's discretion. Obviously, we're going to have masks and hand sanitizer and everything, but a good chance to meet everybody there. And if you can't make it, I know I can't announce it yet, but there's going to be a platform that will be streaming that hopefully by the time this interview airs, that we will be able to be seeing everything from around the world. I want to talk to you about meeting the fans and doing an expo, because on your Twitter, you got some shirts that are cool as hell out there right now that if I can't make it, I know I can order them online. But I love the design. Is it what Gaijin? Is that the name of the company?
Yes. So the guy why, and I did a little collaboration. My dad did an awesome job on the shirt, and I was like, I want something. Gaijin is Japanese for foreigner. But I wanted something that represented him, because obviously he was a big deal in Japan. And I was like, his nickname over there was the Human Torpedo. And I'm like, it's got to have a picture of him. It's got to say that in Japanese. So they did really, really well. And I'm super excited about those. They're for sale for a limited time. Hopefully we can get them on Pro Wrestling Tees. And it'll be for right now, we're working with them and doing a little collaboration for now.
Will any of them be available in Dallas?
As right now, they are the ones supplying them. So they are strictly like on their website. Hopefully in the future, I'll be able to have them at shows and stuff. But for right now, they have them for sale.
What kind of reception in Japan? Because obviously your dad was huge over there, but when you go over there, do you have fans speaking to you? But I imagine you have people like me and fans all the time wanting to talk about your dad. But what was your reception with that, with Japan fans, Japanese fans, Japanese wrestlers being so respectful, remembering your dad, and then talking to you about him? That had to be a little bit special.
It was so special. Like, it's a different type of fan. Like, I mean, not that it's just different. Like, how can I say? Super respectful. The fans that I did have, like, they took me to cool restaurants. They took me sightseeing, and I never felt like it was creepy or anything like that. And of course, they were, grew up being fans of my dad, and it was cool to hear their stories. Like, I hear people's stories over here all the time, like, Sportatorium and all that, but to hear, like, stories of the things that I saw as a kid from people there was, it was surreal. Like, it was kind of like touched me in my heart. So I really enjoyed it.
Did you get to the Ribera Steakhouse?
I went to the Ribera Steakhouse, and I got my jacket, and Dan Severn was there, the Beast.
Wow.
So, yeah, I know. So I had some good friends, and I had Dan Severn there when I got my Ribera jacket, which is like the coolest thing.
That's awesome. What have you done, and I'll be respectful of the time, and I know you're driving, what have you done to stay sane during this pandemic? You get back from Japan, and like the rest of us, you're on lockdown. What was your lockdown like? What were you able to do, not do?
Actually, I'm very blessed, and Craig over here has a wrestling ring at his house. So I stayed with him, and we wrestled. We actually did some filming for like a internet show. Like, you can buy it. It's called Viral Pro. So we had all the people that weren't afraid and wanted to still come out and do stuff and get some good footage and keep practicing and training and stuff. And they came up, and we filmed wrestling. So I've not stopped since the pandemic. So I'm very blessed to be able to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome, and a great name, Viral Pro. Very apt. Do you still keep in touch with Uncle Michael once in a while to keep tabs on you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I talked to him. He's like a second dad. So, right now he's helping me with training. And I think he's super excited because, my brother got out of it like 10 years ago, and it's just kind of been him. And now, like, there's something new. So I think he hasn't really said it, but I think he's super excited that, another one of his family members is doing something now. And right now is a really good time with the women's evolution stuff going on. And, women are making it's a big deal for them right now. So I think that he's really looking forward to seeing me do big things.
And anytime I have women that I interview, I always talk about this, and this is legit straight from the heart. I love, I talked with the Blossom twins. They were in TNA mid-2000s, and TNA, in my opinion, when I first started watching it, they didn't have, sure they had the eye candy, but they had kick-ass women doing great matches that were outdoing the guys. And I love the fact that we have now gotten caught up with the times, and the female talent are, of course, just like women looking at the men, they're cute. We've got cute talent, but we've got ass-kicking women who are pulling out awesome matches, great moves, great storylines. So, yeah, it has to be you're hitting it at the right time.
Oh, I think so. I think that everything going on, even with the pandemic, it's still slowly, it's kind of taking a break, but I think it's going to come back bigger than ever. So everybody's going to just bust out of the house and go to their local show. So I think it's going to be great.
Absolutely. And you're going to have, you guys that are able, when you're in front of a crowd, you're jacked up, and the crowd is now going to be jacked up for the short term because it's the They're getting out of the house. They're getting to see live entertainment. It's gonna be awesome. So please, if you cannot get to Dallas on August 28th and 29th, please stay tuned to Independent Wrestling Expo to follow along. Now, my last question for you, Miranda Gordy, is the most important question that I ask, because this is the reason why I started doing this. How can we as fans from around the world, what are your social medias that we can follow? We can keep track of your career. Do you have a pro wrestling tee store? How can we support you with merchandise? So plug away everything, and plug some stuff for Craig too, for having to listen to me talk in my reporter voice.
I'm on all social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all under Miranda Gordy. I think Instagram is like Miranda.Gordy. I'm on Pro Wrestling Tees. If you type in my name, or you could just type in Gordy, it brings up the Terry Gordy stuff and my stuff. I think that's really it. YouTube, I am working on it.
Yep.
I'm slowly working on adding more and more wrestling matches that I have. It's kind of hard to get some of the film onto YouTube. So I'm still working on the YouTube channel. You can find some of my early stuff on there. Besides that, yeah, you can find me all over the internet. Just Miranda Gordy. I try to keep it simple so you can remember.
All right, and we'll link our channel to yours and hopefully help you build that up. I know YouTube's a slow build. And Viral Pro, is that its own entity on YouTube?
It is. If you go to viralwrestling.com, you can it'll send you a link, and you can pick out, which episodes you want to go through. It goes through Square. What is it?
Yeah,
Square, the Square site. You can purchase it by the season or purchase it by the episode. And there's a lot of great talent. A lot of people that you'll actually see on the Expo show have matches on Viral Pro. So a lot of Chandler Hopkins, Malico, a couple of other people that are going to be at the show at the Expo in Texas are on Viral Pro as well.
Fantastic. So anything else we can plug for Craig? We're going to get him on the show. You're going to have to hook us up. We'll give him at some point. We'll get an interview with him. But any other plugs that we can do for him?
He is on social media as well as Craig Kiesman or Niles Plonk. So he's on Viral Pro as well, and he does wrestling in Texas on SWE, and he's got Twitter and he's got Facebook and Instagram, so you can find him there as well.
Awesome. Well, we'll plug him. We are looking forward to the Independent Wrestling Expo, seeing you in 2 great matches. We are looking forward to, as Wrestling Travel, following your career and supporting your career. Anything that you need from us, please let us know. We'll plug everything. And I cannot thank you enough for joining us. This is actually my first car ride interview after 70-some interviews. So, and we didn't break up too much on the internet, so we're doing something right. So Miranda Gordy, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.